We've had a lower level official, I think it's fair to say, an advisor to the Interior Ministry, well known in the media, Anton Gerashenko, but he has said if Prigozhin's death is confirmed, I think we'll be fairly certain Putin gave this order. He did not and was not going to forgive the humiliation by Prigozhin in June, referring to that failed mutiny where they marched the Wagner tanks and vehicles on Moscow. He goes on to suggest that Surovikin and perhaps another Russian commander associated with Prigozhin might want to be sure that their, quote, earthly affairs are in order. Now, this is what you might expect to happen. Ukrainians seizing upon this moment, the possibility Prigozhin is dead, that we do not know at this stage to be the case. But it's important to point out that his role in the war here was significantly reduced after that mutiny, as indeed you might expect. He went against the Russian top brass and said you are not doing a good enough job in this, and challenged Putin in ways that I think even Prigozhin didn't think he was doing when he started that move towards Rostov in the south up towards Moscow. And so Wagner since has been reduced from the front lines. Western officials have suggested indeed that their funding has begun to collapse. Putin was very open in the days afterwards how they'd given essentially billions to Prigozhin, the supposed secret deniable Wagner group, to build their presence in Africa and indeed fight in some of the toughest places on the Russian front lines in occupied Ukraine on behalf of Russia. But Western officials suggesting perhaps that the money had begun to dry up. So Wagner was beginning to look dishevelled. No real better words than that to describe Yevgeny Prigozhin when he popped up on a video in Telegram in Africa just in the last 48 hours. He did not look particularly happy at all, but talked about potentially expanding Wagner's role in Africa. And so the thought had really been, well, maybe Prigozhin is out of favour, obviously, with the Kremlin. Maybe he has too much political currency for Putin to arrest him or take him out of circulation. Maybe he's being allowed to keep going on a lower level, clearly with his wings clipped, perhaps because of the failure of that rebellion. Maybe his men are being moved to Belarus. Well, Belarus's president was never that welcoming, frankly. I think also NATO neighbours of Belarus deeply concerned at the potential of Wagner being there. And so the sudden arrival of Prigozhin again in Africa perhaps explained maybe that might have been the get out for Putin. Exile in Africa for Prigozhin, but that doesn't really fit with the Putin that we know, massively weakened by that armed rebellion. Make no mistake, he has not suddenly recovered. He's been on the PR offensive since then, desperately trying to claw back that image as the infallible strongman, utterly shattered by what Prigozhin did. And so it would have been odd, frankly, for long-term observers of the Kremlin to see Prigozhin continue in public life, healthy, essentially untouched by that extraordinary decision to challenge Putin in the most overt challenge he'd seen since he came to power in 1999. And so, yes, what we're hearing today is in keeping with what we know Putin is about, but we know so little, really, about who was really on that plane and where Prigozhin is now.